Good evening to all participants who have participated in this lovely webinar that is Reskilling and Upskilling the Future-Ready Workforce. And across Sri Lanka and across the globe, who's watching this exciting webinar for the first webinar, of course, for 2021, and of course, the 22nd evening for managers. From Chartered Professional Managers Institute of Sri Lanka. So I'm welcoming again to all the people who have been participated so far, and should thank the committee and CPM's Evening for Managers is basically the highest number of participants all time, and it's been renowned as the most exciting and knowledge sharing webinar of all time, right? And today we have from a person from the neighboring country, Payal Nanjiani, as the keynote speaker. And if I brief about Payal, my friend over there, he is an Indian-American globally acclaimed leadership and personal growth expert. She has to date helped millions of people globally to grow at their work, became world-class leaders and be highly successful. She is famous for getting teams to achieve their leadership breakthrough and believe in their innate quality to lead regardless of their title. She is the founder of Successes Within Leadership that is bringing a transformation to the workplace and changing the way people and business think about leadership. Payal works with teams, leaders, and organizations in nearly every industry to help them create a culture of developing world-class leaders across all levels in the organization. Welcome, Payal, to the 22nd Evening for Managers, courtesy of CPM.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much, Shashan. And yeah.
Okay,
go ahead.
I will introduce our two panelists today. That is, give me a minute. We have Mr. Nalin Edrisinghe. Nalin counts over 30 years of banking experience in commercial banks, including Commercial Bank of Ceylon and National Development Bank. He joined Pan Asia in 2000, and he has extensive experience in retail and SME banking, including credit recoveries, project financing, and branch operations. He holds MSc in Management from the University of Sri Jayawardenepura. He's also a fellow of the Institute of Bankers of Sri Lanka, fellow of Certified Professional Managers, and a member of the Association of Professional Bankers, Sri Lanka. Nalin, how are you?
How are you? Thanks, Ashan, for the introduction. Thanks.
Okay, our next panelist is a very versatile personality, Dr. KJCS Fernando. I will call him Dr. Admiral Shamal Fernando. Rear Admiral Shamal Fernando is a multifaceted personality. Currently, he serves as the Chief Executive Officer of Caritas International. He became one of the longest service 2-star rank admirals in the country with an unblemished active career spanning 30 years in the Sri Lankan Navy from 1979 to 2018. He is first flag ranked naval officer of logistics specialization to hold 4 of the key assignments at Navy headquarters, Director General Administrations, Director General Logistics, Director General Budget and Finance, and Naval Secretary. He also had a 3-year stint as the Chief of Staff, Additional Director General of Civil Defense Force. Dr. Shamal Fernando became the first naval officer to achieve the Doctor of Philosophy and Master of Philosophy degrees from the General Sir John Kotelawala Defense Academy. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you very much.
Right. And last but not the least, our co-founder. Let me introduce Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala. If he's not invented this whole CPM concept, we won't have this webinar today. Founder of CPM, or Chartered Professional Managers Institute of Sri Lanka, President. And Professor, how are you? Glad to see you
fine.
on the webinar.
Thank you, Ajay.
Right. So with that, I would like to hand over the proceedings to Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala to do the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Hashan. Thank you very much. Actually, it's the welcome address. I think you mentioned about vote of thanks, but doesn't matter. I think let me, on behalf of the Chartered Professional Managers, welcome our very, very distinguished keynote speaker and the panel, and also all our participants who are attending this 22nd EFM. EFM is Evening for Managers presentations. I think it has picked up quite a lot. And with the current pandemic, everyone would have thought that we would have died a normal death. But we have been able to take things to new levels. The digitalization has really helped us, and this is something that you all are going to talk today. Our distinguished keynote speaker and the panelists will discuss this and tell us how we can take this forward on the reskilling and upskilling for a future-ready workforce. Sri Lanka has just celebrated 73 years of independence. This, I think, is the most appropriate topic that one could discuss if we are to go forward. So I'm indeed happy, and also must thank the our education committee and the other, our director, Mr. Director who's there, helping Dirshan Arskulratna for the great effort that they have put in selecting this right theme for the first EFM presentation this year. This is something that we have been talking a lot. In fact, the CPM was formed for that particular purpose. Today, the evening forum is what is known as the continuing professional development. So do not think that after a degree or MBA or whatever that you have, that you are it and you don't have to follow any courses. But that's what we are now going ahead with the CPD and the continuing professional development, which is essential for the development of the skills of our managers. Now, our profession is very, very important because it relates to managers, and managers are relevant in all areas. Whatever field you are, if you are not a good manager, even if for the politicians, if they don't manage their country well, then certainly the society and the citizens are going to suffer. So management is very, very important, and what we are doing should be maybe done by all others so that they will take them forward. So the Chartered Professional Manager, as you said, we are now having this program on management and entrepreneurship, which very soon we will want to take it throughout the country, because that's something that we feel is very essential for the development of the nation, the development of entrepreneurs, development of business, development of the economy. Now that's something that we will do very soon. We are doing it now currently, but both where we can have a hybrid situation, because we are now doing it online, and the pandemic situation has maybe also played a major role in taking the digitalization very much forward. So that's how all of us have now really thought of this. On the skill development, I would like to say that this is something that is very, very much required, not only at the workforce level, but also at the management level. We have many universities that are producing maybe graduates, And today, some of them are thinking of converting their technical colleges, their higher educational institutes to universities. But if we do not know the purpose for which we are doing this, in fact, I have told one of the institutes that are due to be converted to a university is the Sri Lanka Institute of Advanced Technology. I told them that if you join and go with the normal university, you will be at the bottom end. But if you want to go to the top, you become a technological university. I'm sure Ms. Payal would agree with me. That's how India went forward. So this is a new thinking that we have given to them, and they were very pleased because they don't want to be at the bottom, but they want to be at the top and also maintain this technological front that is there. So that is what we today need. Maybe we need a separate, maybe a higher educational institution like in India, maybe you have the AICTE or the technological one, which will approve technological universities in this country and take our economy forward. So that's one thing that has to be done. And the professional bodies also have a major role to play. If you look at, I was just speaking to the Open University Vice Chancellor. He was telling me that the government has given them a target that they must produce 200,000 IT graduates over a period of maybe 5 years. That is the requirement that is there. But that is not one man show, you know. We need to have public-private partnership. If you ask Ms. Payal, she will tell how the education system in India is done. If you take Pune University, they have 600 colleges, 600,000 students. This is something that we need to achieve in Sri Lanka. That's how the skill development comes. It is not just trying to stick to one thing and try to carry forward with that. You will not be able to break the barriers that you have. To break the barriers, you need to go to new things. And I'm sure today we will listen to those areas because we need barriers to be broken if we are to take this country forward. So this is just what I thought that I will put to you, and also for our speakers and panelists and all those who are participating. We have to come with new thinking, and that's how we can take our country and the economy forward. So once again, I wish this EFM evening, which is, I think, the key most maybe strategy that we should have. If we implement this properly, maybe within the next 5 years, we will really be able to overtake Singapore. That should be our target. So let me thank our maybe the committee and I think our moderator has been doing a very good job, and wish everyone that after this conference that they will be able to play this lead role and to support us in taking the country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Wattawala. I mean, such a, I'm so humble to host this, you know, as the moderator. And again, my apologies of my little mistake. I'm extremely excited over this because, so that welcome address is an eye-opener because what the points that I picked from your welcome address is that, yes, of course, managers should manage professionally and skillfully. And, you know, the modern world is taking a different turn altogether with regards to technology. And also, as a country, are we ready to be the next world's leading country? Are we ready? And so I have taken a few points, which I'll keep it for the discussion later. And now I will hand over the proceedings to Payal, our globally acclaimed leadership expert, to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, Payal.
Okay, am I audible? Okay.
Yes, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much to the entire team of CPM for having me here. And it was an incredible opening by Professor Lakshman, I must say that. And I'm saying that totally, you know, out of my heart for a very pure reason. is, just last year, almost end of last year, mid of last year, is when I relocated to India after being in the US for 21 years. And, speaking about leadership and training and coaching leaders and meeting some of the most successful people out there, I had decided to take that leap and listen to my calling to come here and really empower the people in and around India to build up such high leadership skills and a leadership mindset that they can take their country ahead in time. So today, when I heard Professor Lakshman, it so resonated with me. And I really hope going forward, I will always be a part of helping Sri Lanka achieve what they want to achieve in their growth. Seriously. And really a very happy 73rd independence. That was what I heard, that it was very around the corner. So anyways, it is said that never underestimate the power of people who want to succeed. And I am here in a virtual room full of people who are determined to succeed. So for those of you who want to go ahead and keep your cameras on, please do that. I would love to see all of you. I would love to interact with you, because I'll be very honest here. I don't come with any, PowerPoints or anything. And whatever I speak based on how you chat with me in the chat box. So my chat box is on. I'm going to be asking you some questions. For those of you who want to keep your videos on, please do so. I would love to, again, like I said, I would love to see all of you. I am here today to have some very deep and very bold and courageous conversations and dialogues with you around your problem and challenges when it comes to growth, when it comes to reskilling and learning and making sure that you're climbing upward. And it is my sincere hope that in the next 25 to 30 minutes that I have with all of you, I am able to help you break through some of these problems, some of these challenges. So at all times, I'm going to ask you to use the chat box and give me a yes, yes at all times. If anything resonates with you, if my story, my client stories, if you've experienced something like this in your own life, if you know someone who is going through such issues and wants to break through, keep that yes, yes in the chat box coming. Like I said, my eyes are on that chat box. So keep that yes, yes on throughout today's session. So let me get started by asking you some very key questions around what Professor Lakshman opened up with. Very key questions I want to ask you. Give me a yes, yes in the chat box. Okay, for those of you who this resonates with, give me a yes in that chat box. How many of you believe that to grow at your workplace and to be successful, you have to keep learning, you have to keep reskilling and upskilling yourself? Give me a yes in that chat box. Okay, just keep giving it if it resonates with you. Super, super. Okay, now my next question is to those, so give me a yes if the next question resonates with you. Okay, just those who it resonates with, who really think about it. Give me a yes if you constantly invest your time, money, and efforts in learning, in reskilling and upskilling yourself. Only those people who are constantly investing your time, give me a yes in that. Super. My last question. Okay, that's going to be the breaker. My last question is here. Give me a yes, yes, if you have a complete strategic plan for your learning, for your reskilling and upskilling process. If you've really planned it out, you have a strategic plan for your reskilling and your upskilling. Okay, now let me tell you something. I'm just seeing the chat boxes and the amounts of yes, no. It's just going off balance as I have come towards the next last question. Some of you are no, some of you are hopefully, I think so, as compared to a yes. And let me tell you something. Your responses are reminding me of this incident that happened in my own life. Okay. So this happened years back. I think this was what, 21 years back, when I actually started my very first job. Okay, that time I was started with a job, and I vividly remember how the interviewer, my entire interview was great, and towards the end of the interview, he asked me this question. He said, "So Payal, what's your growth plan?" And he took a seat back like this, and I went, leaned in forward, wondering, okay, what's this about? And trust me, my friends, trust me when I say, despite having done business management from one of the finest institutes, despite having, read books and books before the interview, I had never heard anyone talk to me of a growth plan. In fact, that was the first time I had even heard that, heard these two words, GP, growth plan. And I completely just stared at the interviewer, looking so ignorant. Anyways, I came clean saying I don't know what a growth plan means, and that I didn't know I'm supposed to have one. He leaned forward, he looked at me, and he said, in that case, Payal, I can almost predict your income and your growth in your career life. And he was so right. He was so right, my friends. For years, for many years, I was stuck both in my career and in my income, not going anywhere. And I'm so grateful. Of course, I got that first job because that was just the icebreaker question. But I'm telling you something here. I am so grateful that I heard these two words back then, 21 years back, when nobody would be even thinking of these things, growth plan. And since then, my life has never been the same again. This, and I wanted to think, that's the reason I asked you that last question. Do you have a strategic growth plan? See, this incident, it made me realize that learning, that skilling and upskilling myself was never about accumulation of skills. Keep that yes coming if you resonate with this. It's not about accumulation of the skills that I need to get because I want to go ahead of someone else in the organization, nor is it a security net for a job safety. It's so much more, my friends. It's so much more. Okay, I like those yeses and those comments coming in the chat box. So keep that on. It is so much more than what it is about just certifications. If I was to come out of the screen and come live and talk to you all like I would always do, just one-on-one, and you look at me and you would ask, Payal, what are some of the key principles you would tell me that would help me to grow in the process of my work, that would help me to keep up with my learning? And here's what I would say to you, my friends. And I really want you to really write this down because, like I said, these are some nuggets that I have personally learned and still learning while I coach and I speak to some of the most prominent and successful leaders in the world. And I humbly say this because I share it very openly through my books, through my podcasts, through my sessions. And these are not openly available, So I want you to write this down. Just based on what answers you gave me, I want to tell you, growth is not accidental. It's always intentional. Please write that down, my friends. Do you have a growth plan? And something to reflect on. Do you have a growth plan? Is your growth just happening? You're getting pushed from one place to another, and you're waiting for your promotions, you're waiting for things to happen, or is it intentional? See, there's a big difference between both of them, my friends. If you are a person who is waiting for your boss, waiting for your organization to arrange your growth, to arrange a training for you, to invest in your learning, oh well, then God help. Because with the economy that is going on, it's not necessary that your company, your organization will be able to invest in your skills. That does not mean that they are not interested in your growth. It just means times are such that it's not happening. Are you waiting for someone to come and tell you, hey, look, these are the skills that are going to happen in the future, you need to work on them? Are you a person who is just hurriedly working on some skills just to keep your job secured? In that case, my friends, your growth is going to be very accidental. You're just going to be waiting in line. You're going to be waiting for someone to push you and just get into that next grade level. That's not growth. Going from one grade to another is not growth. If I don't know in which podcast of mine, but I think it was one of the latest podcasts where I spoke about how to grow at your work in two parts. It was part one, where I have explicitly said that intentional growth is the art of making your own choices before others' choice make you. I repeat, my friends, intentional growth is an art of making your own choices before others' choices make you. So you have to make sure that you are a person whose growth is very intentional, very focused, regardless of the economy, regardless of what's happening around you. It has to be a consistent investment in your growth, a consistent investment. I love those yeses coming. Please keep that coming. It tells me that you are experiencing what I experienced years back, and it changed me. So it's not a difficult task to have an intentional growth. It's easy. To start with, I would say just pick one area of growth. Ask yourself, what are my current weaknesses and strengths? Now, I know some of you may be thinking, hey, Payal, but I have been always reading, never concentrate much on your weakness. See, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know, whether Google tells you that, or whether you hear motivational speakers saying that, because I am not into motivational speaking. No offense to anyone, but you have to concentrate on your weakness if you want to truly grow. See, it's one part. It's true that you have to play on your strengths. That's true. You have to play on your strengths, but at the same time, you cannot ignore your weaknesses. Your strengths are showing you even your weaknesses. So you have to make sure that you continuously ask yourself, what are my current weaknesses and strengths? What's the one skill I'm not working on that I wish I had? And how much time and energy am I reserving each day? I repeat, my friends, I'm reserving each day for myself, for my growth. Something that I always say that reminds me here is, most people don't begin to do something about their growth until they've had their first heart attack. Yes. Most people don't begin to do something about their growth and their life until they've had their first heart attack. And it's in that hospital room that we think and we ask ourselves, I need to do so many things. I was just coaching one of the managers last week. They signed up for our one-on-one coaching. And I remember how he told me that there was an evening where he was rushed to the hospital thinking that it was a heart attack. And on the way from his home to the hospital, the only thought that came to his mind was, what if something happens to me? I have not achieved what I wanted to achieve. Of course, later on, they came to know it was a gastric attack. It was not a heart attack. But can you even imagine that trip between the home and the hospital with one question going on in his mind? What if something happens to me? I haven't achieved what I want to achieve. So let's not wait for that day. Make your growth intentional. In fact, in all of my leadership books, if any of you have ever got a chance to read them, you will see ways of growing. That's the only thing that comes in my mind is, how do you grow? How do you achieve success in your work life? So here's one leadership breakthrough moment for you. Okay, let me give that to you. I want you to ask yourself, is your growth intentional or accidental? Just ask yourself. You don't have to write it to me, nothing. Is your growth accidental or is it intentional? Okay. Number two, that's another key principle that it reminds me when you all wrote your answers in the chat box. Predetermine the objectives you want to accomplish. Predetermine the objectives you want to accomplish. And I think instead of saying this to you and explaining to you, I want you to do this with me. And that's why I said, I wish I had the videos on, I could see all of you, but I want you to do this with me, wherever you are. I want you to just sit back, relax, do it with your eyes open, closed, whatever is comfortable to you. But I want you to sincerely imagine that you are holding a container in your hand. Okay? You're holding a container in your hand, and and I want you to demonstrate that container with your hands. Okay, I just want you to demonstrate that container, however that container is. I want you to hold it like this in front of you, and I want you to imagine that you are taking this container and you are walking and walking, and all of a sudden you see yourself surrounded by ocean on all sides. Okay, I want you to look at your container. And I don't know, I don't know the size of your container. I cannot see it, but here's something. I want you to see this to yourself. Is your container extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, or is it limitless? What size of container did you demonstrate? Okay, and you just have to be truthful to yourself. No judgments here. It's all for you. The container, it represents your thinking, the thinking you have about yourself, the thinking you have, people, what people think about you, the message you are giving to the people of how they should treat you and how they should think about you. And the sea that you are surrounded by, my friends, are all the opportunities that are waiting for you, that are there for you, but you will not be able to benefit from those opportunities simply because of the container, the thinking. When Professor Lakshman said that it's time we think big. It's time we think big, because we cannot do big unless we think big. So to think big, you have to expand that container, because you are surrounded by all sides with opportunities. And I am in awe when people come to me. What, Payal? I want to change the thinking. I want to change the thinking of my spouse. Well, I say, good luck with that. Good luck with that. But I have a solution here. I have a solution. When you begin to expand your thinking, all of a sudden, everything falls in place. Everything. You won't even realize it. See, my friends, if you think small, if you predetermine your objectives in a very limited way, if you define your objectives in a very limited way, you and your team will learn and upskill only to that level. In fact, lesser than that. You will never surpass your thinking even when it comes to your learning. Okay, you will never be able to cross. Okay, I love those chats coming in, so I'm paying attention to both places. So, in a very recent power leadership talk that I was giving in a banking company in Nepal, I said to them one thing, and I would repeat that here because it's so close to what you all are writing in the chat box. Your ability to learn and quickly translate that learning into action is the ultimate competitive advantage for you and your organization. I should repeat that, my friends. Your ability to learn and quickly translate that learning into action is the ultimate ultimate competitive advantage for you and your organization. And that requires big thinking. Because if you don't think, if you don't begin to think big, you will never upskill yourself to that level. So think big, think long, and then strategize your learning process. Most of us, what happens is we do the reverse. What we do is we look at the courses, we look at what we need to learn, we start learning, and then we start thinking where we need to take this learning and what we need to do. And that's the reason whenever we have done one-on-ones or any coaching or any trainings with managers, I've always seen 90% of the people are stuck in the mid-managerial role. Yes? 90%, and this is across all countries that I have spoken. It's not limited to India, it's not limited to Asia or America, it's everywhere. 90% of the people today are stuck in the mid-managerial role, because what we don't realize is what's got us to the mid-managerial role is not what's going to take us upward. It's a different, completely different we call them as transformed leaders, that you have to transform yourself here on, not just based on your skill sets, but based on how you become a world-class leader. So, you'll be amazed at the new opportunities that this opens for you. And very lately, if any of you have read the news, you must have read that the World Economic Forum has said that 1.4 million US jobs will be disrupted by technology and other factors by 2026. And it's not just about the US, the impact is going to be global. How do you prepare yourself and your team for this change? It can't be just by reskilling and upskilling and learning. It has to be first by thinking big. while I'm talking with this, that's something that I remembered, is that one of our biggest regrets at the end of our career life will be that we didn't think 20 times bigger than we are actually doing. That's going to, and I've seen that happening with so many people. So here's your leadership breakthrough. Which new idea will you and your team actively explore today onwards? Which new ideas will you and your team actively explore today onwards? And let me give you the last one, which I remember. Optimize yourself before optimizing your skills. That's another key principle I had learned that time. Optimize yourself before you optimize your skill. I'll give you one example of this. So this happened in the year 2000 when I had relocated to America. And I was, I was looking out for jobs and everything, and I got this job. I decided not to work in corporate America immediately. I said, I'll start with a mid-sized company. And I got this job in this advertising firm, very happy. I was very happy with my job, with my salary, with learning the new culture, with making sure that I am, contributing and making a difference. Everything was great. However, was one thing that was always bothering me. And that was my boss. I just could not get along with her, or she couldn't get along with me. I don't know, but there was constant friction between both of us. Not that she was not a good boss, huh? She was very good when it came to delivering the advertising content and meeting clients. But when it came to people management, she was a boss that you just did not want. So anyways, I continued my job. I wanted experience. And I said, okay, I'll continue doing what I'm doing. And after 1 year, I did what most of us would do. I wrote my resignation letter and submitted it. 2 days later, I had a call from the vice president of the company. When you're in a mid-sized company, everybody knows you. So he said the CEO of the company is happy with your work. So rather than you resigning, we decided we'll give you another department to handle. You will have an independent role. Let's see how you take it up from there. And I said, sure, why not? I was very happy with my job again. Things were going fine. I got into the leadership positions, grew from there onward. And I still remember it was the year of 2004, and we were all going to take a break for Thanksgiving holiday. And the CEO of that company, he decided to give 5 minutes one-on-one to every leader in the organization. So I was very happy because I wanted to make sure that I thank him for what he has done for me. So when it was my turn and he came in, and the first things that I said, I still remember, is thank you so much today. Because of you, I am growing and I am here. And he looked at me and he said, Payal, I have not helped you to grow at all. In fact, you have got yourself stuck. And I looked at him, I didn't know what to say. And I still remember, it gives me goosebumps even now. He looked straight in my eyes and he said, Payal, undeniably, each of us are going to have problems in our work life. We are going to face problems, issues, pressures, deadlines, frictions with bosses. We're going to have problems with our teams, with being global. Everything is going to happen. And he said, each of us are also going to be given 4 options in our career life. He said, option number 1 is when all these problems happen, when all these things take place, option number 1 is you just stay quiet, ignore everything, heads down and do your work. Option number 2 is you quit, go find another job, get into something else. Option number 3 is you be frustrated, you blame everyone, and you just keep, passing the buck on, and you remain frustrated and don't give your best. And option number 4, you make yourself so powerful, you make your leadership capacity so high that you can deal with every problem. And that, Payal, will not come just based on your skills. You've got to optimize yourself. 5 minutes over, he said thank you and he left. But it just hit me to the core. Optimize yourself before you optimize your skills. And there's and today, when I think about it, last year during the COVID times, I was giving the Unstoppable Leader workshop that we do for corporates. I was giving it at an IT company who was changing from hardware to software. And before they could get into any trainings, they invited me to, to conduct this 1-day workshop for them. And there's a reason for that. There's a scientific reason behind why we need to optimize ourselves before we optimize our skills. See, learning a new skill requires change. Okay, it requires change, and change causes what? Change causes stress. Change causes fear. Okay, I'm just checking on your chat boxes. Change causes fear. Change causes stress. Okay, and it also causes it means you have to push yourself out of the comfort zone. And all of this fear, this stress, this change, all of this, it impacts your prefrontal cortex and your cerebral cortex. And these are areas of the brains from where we have reasoning, from where we have judgments, from where we make decisions. And if all of this is impacted, it leads to your stagnation in the company. That's when you find yourself stuck. Or even worse, it leads to reversing the progress that you've made. It reverses your learning progress. So there's a big scientific reason of why you want to make sure you optimize yourself before you optimize your skill sets. Because ultimately, my friends, your career life is 25% of your skill set and 75% of the person behind the skill set, which is you. So skilling and upskilling is not just about getting into some new learnings. It's much, much beyond that. So here's your leadership breakthrough for this. I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions every single day. Who am I today? Where am I going? And what will I lose if I don't upskill to get there? These three questions every single day, when you ask yourself, they will become a game changer. You will see that for you, learning is not a hard process. It's an everyday intentional process. So 3 things, my friends. It's all about knowing that your growth is not accidental, it is intentional. It's all about optimizing yourself before you even optimize your skills. And it's all about thinking big. Predetermine the objectives before you get into the skill sets. All of my work, whether it's been workshops, coaching, or book writing, anything, it's all centered around helping teams and leaders optimize themselves, because that's what ultimately leads to innovation and change. So in conclusion, my friends, I know my time is limited with all of you, and I would just go on speaking about growth and because that's a topic I'm most passionate about, is helping people grow at their workplace and helping companies become big. But in conclusion, my friends, I would say that the key challenge in your life will never be lack of opportunities. Never, never will it be lack of learning opportunities. It will always be the inability to transform yourself to be a lifelong learner. The person you are right now is definitely not the person that needs to finish, needs to be when you cross the finish line. I have seen the changes in myself. I've seen the changes in my clients over a period of time. So today onward, commit yourself to take every opportunity to learn, to grow, and to upskill yourself, and let that process be infinite. Because the beautiful thing about learning, my friends, is that nobody can take it from you. It will go with you wherever you are. I hope in this limited time, I have been able to share with you some nuggets that have helped me and helped my clients. I thank you so much and wishing you loads of success in your life. This is Payal Nanjiani, and I hand it back to you, Hashan, for any questions from them.
Right. That's brilliant. Just to, before I open the panel discussion, I throw the first questions to the panel. I just recap, just a summary. Basically, the growth is within you, right? You have to select whether you're going to be upskilled or you're going to be reskilled, right? And what is your growth plan? right? The icebreaker question that been posed to a professional like you at the very early stages of your career. And that reminds me of the first question that I've been posed as well. Whom do you want to be, right? And well, I said, I want to be a big personality, right? So that has to be incubated in your mind, and then you have to slowly grow. Like the brain takes whatever you think about you. And also one more classic point you stressed upon is that the growth is not accidental, it's intentional, right? If you want to grow, you have to cross the hurdle, right? And also the environment that you're in is supporting your growth as well. So that's the other side of the coin, right? Where the boss or the leaders, help you to go that way, right? And I was listening to Boston Consultancy Group, one of the videos very recently. In that, Philip Gerbert, he said, who's responsible for reskilling, right? Research by Boston Consultancy Group, Henderson Institute has shown that it's your own responsibility rather than the company or the government, right? But company has to provide the context. The company has to provide the context. The family has to provide the context. And you have to select whether you're going to upskill or reskill. So with that, Payal, I mean, thank you so much of that icebreaker and that keynote address. We really appreciate that. I would like to throw, let me open the panel discussion from now onwards, and all the people who are listening across Sri Lanka, across the globe, you can post your question to the chat box, and we'll be taking one by one, and we'll be directing the panel with you, Payal, and Professor also involved in the discussion. So I will open the panel now, and my friend Nalin Idrisinghe, I'll open it for you to have. I have this question. Now, you represent a private bank, or you're from the private banking sector, and you're a veteran in that, right? With this catastrophe, with this pandemic going on, it's change of lifestyle. Have you upskill, right? Have you upskill or reskill your employees?
Yeah. Ashan, in fact, let me start off with what Payal said, and actually what really happened in the banking sector. How Payal mentioned the accidental growth planning as well as intentional growth planning. I think what happened during the pandemic was there were a lot of accidental growth planning happening. Skill development, lot came through accident. Let me take through what happened in the banking sector. There was a period where the lockdown came in, and all banks, including the branches, were closed for some time. Then the customers used the internet banking and the ATMs to do their transactions. They never came to the bank. And then the mobile banking units started visiting the towns. So that was a new thing for the staff. And then the branches started slowly opening the branches with all the health guidelines. And only a couple of staff, only a few staff could come to the branches. Now panic started. Why panic started was some staff didn't know other person's job. The other person's job is completely different of what they were doing. So maybe 4 staff came to the branch and they had to do 8 persons' job. Right? This is where the accidental skill development happened. Right? So it was in a way, it was a blessing, even though Payal doesn't think accidental growth is a good thing. It's a blessing that this particular pandemic brought in, because what happened was the the staff who knew this subject, they started mentoring and coaching the other staff with regard to other relevant jobs. So basically what happened was they were reskilled. And on top of that, a lot of mentoring happened, right? And also what happened was, by doing this, our staff became multi-skilled, right? And on top of that, when things gradually turned okay, what happened was, despite this, we started off virtual learning. In fact, our organization, which has about 1,450 staff, had 6 virtual learning lessons covering 2,000 staff members, right? So that was a new thing that came up with the pandemic, because you, Harshan, you asked with regard to pandemic, what happened, right? So, yeah. But what happened was, now, let me give an example of this virtual learning also. These are practical things. Previously, in one of our programs, that was the first session of certification of credit officers. 100 staff came physically for the programs, and 90% of them got through. However, when we did this virtually, out of 100, only 35% staff passed the exams. So there are issues. There are issues in online learning. We see issues, but these are things for us to ponder for the future as well. Again, then we saw people rotating their jobs, right? Because people thought, there were people who goes for challenges, and they thought doing the same job will not give them enough opportunities. They changed their jobs. And also on the other hand, we enriched. So now say a staff officer was to handle a branch manager's job, right? Job enrichment came, and the coaching, the mentoring, everything happened. So by this pandemic, I think people got more skilled as well as reskilled. And also on top of that, what I saw was, especially with regard to our marketing side, people started new skilling. New skilling is actually, you look at the future and what they're going to do in future. So digital marketing. So these things came into the limelight in a very serious way, and people were working on all digital platforms, so that the future is going to be that. So that those are the good things that came through this pandemic, Harshan. And I think that's very good. And I think the future is, by doing all this, finally we realize by now we have a few additional stuff, right? So because because of the automations that happen, the digitalizations that happen, now we see there are a lot of additional stuff. So we have basically taken them to a new pool, and we are basically reskilling them to do marketing activities or maybe other credit activities. So these are the new developments that came through this pandemic. Thank you.
Right. I mean, very insightful. Capturing your thoughts on that accidental learning. I mean, thanks to the pandemic, it happened. It was happening, but it was not happening in a larger scale. And finally, you have a very skilled workforce. I can remember in my organization as well, where I work, Neochem International Private Limited is a B2B operation. Suddenly it got stuck because lack of imports and all that. And we have to reinvent the entire processes. And so you were pre-prepared as well as, and we immediately introduced a mobile app where people struggle to use it, to plan their day-to-day activity. But today, the mobile app, I mean, people have addicted to the mobile app. And now they have basically moved out the traditional visit planning on Excel sheet and moved to a mobile device, which been introduced by the management. And everything is now online. So within a very short period, people been upskill, and I believe you're absolutely right. Virtual learning, it is basically accidental and new learning as well, or new skilling, right? So it's either by default or by design. Been happened. It happened, right? Thank you, Nalin, once again, and Admiral Dr. Shamal. I would like to pose this question to you. Now, you're from a military background, or basically you're a naval officer, and you have a very disciplined background. How this upskilling and reskilling was used to groom the young officers. I mean the people who are very young naval officers, or especially in the military. And we have an academy. We have what do you call Patalavala Defense Academy, right? Where it's a totally defense, what do you call, discipline outfit. But in the military, how upskilling and reskilling is happening? Doctor, you have to unmute.
First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Lakshman Vatavela for the great opportunity, and also would like to congratulate Lady Payal on her excellent keynote address. Coming back to the question, Hashan, in the military, you are on the watch 24 hours. Whether you like it or not, it's a continuous job where you need to reskill and upskill your talents, your capabilities. For example, now when I joined the Navy, it was a ceremonial Navy. And within years, it was transformed to a fighting force along with other armed forces. And then after 30 years of war, back to a professional armed force, and where we had to contribute towards development of the country. So it's a continuous process. And when you train at the beginning, you expect all of them to reach their levels, that is mainly discipline levels. So with discipline, it is a motivated, well-mannered, a well-structured force, whether it's Army, Navy, or Air Force. So it's in a way with the discipline coming very handy when the changes take place in our country or all over the world for us to adjust. You mentioned about Kotalavala Defense University. Now it has become the cradle for all three forces, and it is doing a marvelous job producing not only for the military, but also among civilians, the day scholars. They also graduate in large numbers, and we contribute to the society a disciplined graduate lot apart from the military personnel. So it's a continuous process, and reskilling and upskilling takes place quite often in the military, depending on the requirement of the country. Thank you.
Right. I mean, yes, the skilling of the youngsters, I know it's a task because they're coming from different backgrounds. So your address is very clear as to how to reskill or upskill them. I would like to ask, now we take a few questions from the chat, and before that, Professor, you have crossed many decades, and you have seen different experience over. I mean, people go through a learning curve, right? Professor, I would like to ask from you, what's your opinion with regards to our topic today, upskilling, reskilling the future ready workforce, and you have decade of experience. How do you see this new generation is compared with your time, your experience? How do you see they reskill or upskill their skill levels, Professor?
Yeah, thank you, Hashan. I think first of all, I must congratulate Ms. Payal for that excellent presentation. And of course, what she said is really true, that one has to optimize oneself. You cannot depend on anyone else. If you do maybe what you think is right, then I'm sure that is the way that you can go up, and no one will be able to help you, you know, because in Sri Lanka, I know this is one of the biggest faults that we have, you know. Everyone wants to go behind, maybe if it is the public sector, go behind politicians and others and look for favors and promotions. Now, this is really something that has spoiled all the people. But in the private sector, it is entirely different. They have different growth plans and how they can take forward. Plus also, if you do not do well, you will get wiped out and you will go out of the scene. Very big businessmen, I'm sure Ms. Payal will know, the people who have been having aircrafts and others who have been talking very big, but ultimately what has happened to their business. So these not only have to be managed well, but has to be done. But looking at the sort of the question that Hashan posed, those days, I think during maybe our times and when we did things, it was a little different, because we really maybe had some sort of respect with the employers, working with them, and even wanting to stay on for long. I think that was, I suppose, even in the Japanese and others, where we're talking of lifelong employment. But today that is not the same. And also I see the younger generation are wanting to go forward very, very fast. Some of them using their talents in the proper way, some of them in crooked manner. That has also happened. That's why if you really see in all countries, the corruption rate has gone up. And there is a lot of maybe allegations made against various people. So this trying to maybe achieve maybe higher positions or higher, maybe become very rich, are some of the bad qualities that have come in the present generations, you know. So we need to teach them more ethics, more governance, and these are very, very important areas. And sometimes you feel that if you do a job properly, there are a lot of people who are doing things in the wrong manner, and they are succeeding, whereas you who do a proper job, you do as per the rules and regulations, but unfortunately you are maybe the loser. You may not be there, but in the long run, you will be able to maybe go forward and then do it. That's why this what Ms. Payal mentioned is very, very important. For those people, if they really are able to optimize themselves, to come out of this shell that they are in, then they can really go to the top. So what I really see the difference is about people today wanting very quick fixes, very quick results. Because those days it was you stay and then you grow up and you climb the ladder. But today people are not prepared for that. You know, they want to maybe make a quick jump, or they want to maybe leave the organization and start on their own, which is also a good thing. So these major difference that I see, Hashan, I think I hope I have answered your answer.
Yes, very much, Professor. Thank you. Yeah, that opens up Vikram Bala, who's PCG, Boston Consultancy Group member, MD and senior partner. I was listening. I told you before this whole thing got attracted to my conscious, and then I started watching it very deeply. He quotes, as per the stats, million jobs will get reconfigured by 2030. Millions of jobs will get reconfigured by 2030, where migration of skills, right, is going to happen. Then that's going to be extremely bigger in the human history, right? I would like to emphasize on this migration of skills, Payal, you know. I mean, Aruni has just posed a question saying, will our work models attract new generation, right? Migration of skills, okay? Old teaching new, or new teaching new, right? So how do you see, I see a complex scenario. I see it every day, right? Certain people are willing to learn. Certain organizations are absolutely willing to learn, but certain organizations, they try and they move out, or they do trial and error, or they stick to their own agenda. So when you stick to your agenda, you can't change the culture. What's your opinion?
So that's a very nice research, and it's very true that things are going to be changing very soon, more sooner than we can expect in the future. But my question here, is that when has change not been there? If you go to see back even in the industrial age, we have come from the industrial age to the IT age. That is nothing but the changes that have been happening in our industries. The only thing is that if you want to attract new talent, if you want to attract the talent who can, be with us during these changes, Hashan, I think it's really imperative that first we begin the process internally, inside our organization, inside our own self. We have to create that change to attract change. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we have not created the change, we will not be able to attract new change around us. So I think a lot has to do if you mentioned that, are we going to be able to retain them? Yes, we can retain them. It all depends on to what extent we have changed and how quickly we have adapted to the change. What I am noticing is, there were a lot of questions I had last week at a seminar where I was speaking that, things are changing at a very fast pace. Technology is changing at a fast pace. People are worried that their jobs will be obsolete. People are worried that that new technology will make their job obsolete, and they will not be in the scenario. So my question to everybody is that rather than thinking if artificial intelligence is going to take away my job, or is technology going to impact, or is pandemic going to impact, how about creating your value? How about being valuable to the organization and increasing your value by always constantly keeping up with the learning system?
Right.
Because I have never, ever felt that I need to sit on this chair and I know it all. I still consider myself a lifelong learner. And I think if we all keep up with that, it will be easier to imbibe change and move with the change.
Right. So meaning migration of skills has to happen very soon. And like Professor said, the youth is extremely fast. They're fast track and they learn very, very quickly, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The millennials are great at this.
Great. Absolutely. Right. So there's a question posed on the same lines recently. Digitalization has, I want to come to this topic, and then Risley is opening it up for us. Nalin, I mean, you can answer this. Digitalization has been the way out under the present pandemic situation, but we were not ready for this unexpected situation. So he's asking, so do you think that we have failed to upskill our workforce strategically or for the future changes? Nalin?
Yes. Good question. I think
It is.
Sri Lanka has actually if you look at a sector like the banking sector, we have grabbed the opportunities in digitalization in say about 50%. But I think what has happened is the learning prospects. And even though we are ready, the companies are ready. Actually, I saw a recent article also on this. we are ready. The companies, about 65% of companies are ready for digitalization. However, to activate it, there are a lot of constraints. Actually, whether we are ready for this digitalization is an issue. If you look at it, how many apps are coming for banking and how many people are using those in Sri Lanka is an issue. Say for payments, how many apps have come? But have you seen, how many have you seen are using these payment apps other than the credit cards or the debit cards? How many are using these in supermarkets? So I think there is a issue. This will resolve. I think not during the next 5 to 6 years, but when the new generation comes in, who are always on the phones and laptops, when that new generation comes in, I think these will change. But I don't see right now whether we are grasping technology to the best of our ability.
But Nalin, but what you say is that there is a generation gap, and skill levels are totally different now. If you look at the barcode that's been posted in the supermarkets, and we used to write in the book where a young guy will come and scan it and he goes in, right? You're talking about the generation gap, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. So the generation gap is hindering upskilling or reskilling or the current workforce. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think this is where new skilling comes in. New skilling, Hashan, is basically you look at the future and you educate, you do L&D, looking at the future generations, and then you work on that. But right now I see a big gap.
All right. Okay.
Even the barcode, what you say in the supermarkets, very few are using that. And now I think many are not using that also because it's not strictly enforced. So right. that is the reason why I think we need to have some, I think even with regard to the barcodes, I think initially we need to come up with certain rules.
Okay.
At least then people will go and use it. Right now, of course, I was using it in the supermarkets. Now I see no one is using the barcode as well. So they just go into the supermarkets and come back. So there is no record.
That's exactly, Nalin. I mean, again, Rainer Strach, again, MD, senior partner of BCG, Dusseldorf, he says a lot of people and almost everyone has to be upskilled within the existing job they are doing, right? Since it's changing rapidly, right? So that you have to be upskilled inside the job that you're doing.
And also, I think a point from Payal. Now, 25% is learning skills, but the balance 75% is us.
Us, correct.
How we groom ourselves and how we build our profiles. So I think that this is where all the learning and development comes in.
Right. Janaka
Hassan, can I just mention one thing on what Nalin mentioned?
Sure,
really on this barcoding and all, we are just talking of a small thing. We are talking of people entering the supermarket. But if you look at the supermarket itself, they are using barcoding because it's efficiency, productivity, profitability, all those are there. So I think we must look at the big picture, but of course, maybe we are talking of people going in, but the bigger picture, things have really taken place,
Thank you, Professor. Absolutely, yeah. And Janaki is posing a question to us just to clear on the upskilling and reskilling. He's talking about upskilling. Janaki, I'm addressing your question. Upskilling is about learning current tasks more deeply, right? And reskilling is learning new skills for a new position, right? It can be for your life, it can be for your position. Well, meaning like what Payal and Professor and all the panelists said, that learning has to happen immediately, right? Now, when it comes to learning, Dr. Shamal, I would like to ask from you, how technology can expand the ambit of upskilling and reskilling for a modern force or modern workforce? How do you see it?
Well, in my life, I was heavily involved with sports administration and promotion of sports in the country. So there, whenever I researched, I found that we are very much behind in science, technology, and so on. So as a result, it has affected all our sportsmen and sportswomen to reach the high excellence in the sports arena. So as others shared, I too feel that Sri Lanka should concentrate and at least now onwards immediately inculcate the importance on science and technology amongst the present generation. Then at least after 5-6 years, we will be able to come to some standard and match the requirements of the other countries and levels we need to achieve. That will help the entire country to march forward. Otherwise, it will take generations come to in terms with the knowledge you need to gather.
Right. Okay. I would like to, since we have 10 minutes to go, I would like to open, let's have an argument on this, Payal. I think we can start from you. I want to have an argument here. Robots, right? The robo versus humans, or rise of the machine. Will humans be idle? When it
Can you
comes
come
to
again? Will humans be?
being totally taken out from the arena? When
Okay.
robots invade, so what are we talking then? How can we upskill or reskill a human, right, by 2025 or by 2030, right, if robots are going to take over? So, let's argue. I believe, as the moderator, I believe very soon people will be abandoned, but they'll be appreciated, they'll be working with a machine, right? So this upskill or reskill has to be somewhere else. It has to be a different definition. Let's argue on this. Five of us. And what's your thoughts? Robots taking over.
It's such an excellent question, Hashan, seriously. And, I think this is around 2 years back. I had written an article on artificial intelligence and human. It was published in the Silicon Valley magazine. So I'm going to take up a little bit of my thoughts from there, that as robots and artificial intelligence has been created by humans. Okay. Which means if we as human can create something like this, we as human can also assure that it never overpowers us, right? Because we are the creators of it. They are not the creator for us. So as long as we human keep up not just with our machinery learning skills, but as long as we keep, I repeat that again, as long as we optimize ourselves, as long as we make sure that we are moving ahead with the time, it will never be that AI can take over the humans. Because one thing that humans have, which two things that humans have, which the artificial intelligence doesn't have. One is emotions, which are always needed in business. Always. You always do business with people you trust. You don't do businesses with artificial intelligence or with AIs or robots, right? And the second is the human mind. A human mind, as sharp as it can be, can defy science and can, produce so many new machineries. So I think if there is no way that AI can overpower us, it can make your job obsolete, definitely. If you allow it to, everything is in your control as a human, not in the control of the AI.
Okay, Nalin, doctor and professor.
Yeah.
Well, I have my thoughts. I have my thoughts for.
I'm sure this debate will always be on.
Okay.
let me chip in, Hashan.
Yeah.
Example.
Right.
Now, those days, the tellers of the banks were the most important. Now there are recycling machines where you can accept cash, you can pay cash, you can sort cash better than a human being. But if you really look at it, yes, so these are very good developments, fine. But look at this. As a credit officer, I visit to a new business. Whether Payal can chip in and say whether these can be substituted. I had to visit a business and see what's happening in that business, and I see my customer face to face when I discuss my questions. Whether these can be substituted is an issue, right? So I still feel humans will be the main factor, because humans will finally analyze AI as well.
Okay.
So I feel there is a lot of scope, but in a completely different manner.
Right. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Let's argue on this. This is a fantastic topic. AI has led to many. Hear me out. AI has led to many dystopic reports about how machines will replace humans in workshops. Right. If that happens, that's doomsday. That's or the optimizing or the optimum level of the technology and someone said that robots has no skills, they have only predefined functional ability, but I'm talking about AI with robots, right? And then if that is the doomsday that people are forecasting, right? Robots are exchangeables, but skills are extremely unique. So there is an argument. There's an argument going on. So let's see. Let's see the thoughts. What are we talk? Are we going to talk about reskilling, upskilling? If we have to work with a robot, if the robot is doing all the work, I mean, believe me. Look at children today. They are on Zoom. It was never there. 2019, right? It was never there. When we say let's have a Skype call, people are reluctant. But today, that's the talk of the town, right? So once again, I seriously believe that upskilling or reskilling has to be redefined, right? Doctor, what's you have to say?
I believe this competition will continue as long as the world lasts. And I also agree with Payal that always human beings will have an edge or a more percentage than the machinery, though there will be continuous challenges to humans through advances in technology and continuous digital transformation. I feel that humans will rule
the world
even in
once
the
again.
future.
Right. Okay. Professor, if you look at, please.
Yeah. If I can just say, because one would really look at maybe we are not looking at the very, very developed world, but maybe Sri Lanka. If robots are really maybe installed, it's really to improve the productivity, or in areas where there is no labor. Now today, we have a major problem. If you look at the garment industry, we can't find the labor. So then maybe in those areas where functions could be done, especially where there are repetitive functions that where we can use it. So I really don't think that there is a problem, but our main problem would be on the topic that we are talking of. It is really the reskilling and upskilling, because all these people are today looking for very good jobs. And even if you look at maybe the foreign direct investment or the investment in the digitalization, technology, all those areas, you need people who are digital savvy,
Heavy,
So we have to move, because if we go to that field, because now since Nalini, they are speaking from the banking sector, I must tell you that in 1977, when Sri Lanka opened the economy, everyone said that the state banks will close down. They will get wiped out. Foreign banks will come into the country. But what happened? They took this important decision of computerization. And today, all the banks are really in the front side of banking. So at that time, what did the union say? I don't tell Ms. Payal that you couldn't do it before Sri Lanka because your unions protested at that time. But we were able to do it in Sri Lanka because our unions felt that this was good for the country and for them. And you know, that really changed the whole, maybe the structure and the working of the banks. So at that time also they were saying they will lose jobs. So I'm sure this will balance out. But if we do not upskill ourselves, or if we do not reskill ourselves, or we do not skill the people, the youth of this country, then of course we are in doomsday.
Right. Thank you, Professor. That balances off the entire conversation, right? I mean, if you want to stop now, we can stop it because basically you cleaned up the entire thing, and then that's brilliant. This is what knowledge transformation is all about. While the one person posing a question as from the HR point of view, right? From human talent management point of view, workforce upskilling or giving new skills, isn't that a challenge for the current HR manager or who's handling the workforce?
So I would like to understand in what way do we feel is it challenging? If she can elaborate a little, like in what way do we feel that it's going to be challenging for us to reskill and upskill our workforce?
Okay, so no, what the question was, you know, HR can be in a very adverse situation, you know, even now to get some training done to transform them from an Excel sheet to a device. Our organization struggled, right? So from the HR point of view, while I mean, the panelists can join with their experience, I feel that there is a challenge because the HR has to be extremely vigilant in upskilling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because HR has to keep away. You know, I'm from the HR background when I started my career. So I really understand what this is saying is because HRs, what happens is you have to have a strategic way of putting your point onto the table when it comes for the employee trainings and growth. I always believe training and growth are two different, aspects where people see. One is like you're trained to be a leader, so great. I listen to my instructions and I get it done. The other is you are transformed, you're growing as a leader, which means apart from an HR perspective of helping them to get into the training, you are also making sure that you are planning your growth accordingly. So I think in these days, why it is a challenge for the HRs to get into this work, to get into the training and modules mode. And this is my perspective, is because a lot of times what happens is we are cut down by the company's budgets.
Budgets,
Okay?
correct.
So yeah, so we are cut down by the company's budgets. From the HR point of view, we know this training is important. This workshops are important. And from the entire organization's point of view, it's the pandemic going on. How are we going to, what if the employee leaves and we are training them? And what if the employee leaves? And I always say that, think of it from this perspective. What if the employee does not leave? You have an untrained employee as a liability more than an asset now.
Right. So meaning, the leaders of the organization or the leaders of the country need to relook at of implementing these strategies, and that
Yes.
comes to a point, intelligent way of using technology, a way of change the economies of reskilling, right? And I'm picking up again Vikram's quotes. If we continue the traditional way of reskilling, which is very human-centered, it doesn't make economic sense, right? I hope the entire panel agrees. Payal, you want to say something?
Yes. Yes, I was just saying because while I was speaking on the comment side, there were a lot of questions that came that if we want to keep up with our learning and all, how do we optimize ourselves?
Correct.
You know, so there are many ways to optimize yourself. Basically, you have to keep up with your growth. Now, I know I won't have the time to say that here, but I can share a link that they can go and take a quiz. Do you think I can share it here?
Share it with the chat so that the people
In the
can.
chat? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll share it in the chat.
You can
You
put
can
it
go
on share
there.
screen. If you like to, you can put on share screen if you like.
No, it's just a link because we do a lot of these quizzes. So if anyone wants to see exactly where they are as a leader, you can just go take this simple quiz and see. That's where your optimization starts from knowing who you are and where you are on the scale of your leadership, you know. So you can go ahead and just take that quiz and see what results you get. The results are always sent to you. And I'm putting it in the chat box. I don't remember the complete link though, but uh, I think this is the link. Usually my admin has it, but if anyone has any problems in getting to it, just email any of the CPM team, and I think they can let me know.
Right. Nalin, a person called Gayan Gunawardhan is posing a question saying most of the professionals have perfect growth plans. The problem area is the execution of the growth plan, isn't it? You have to unmute.
In fact, that is what I mentioned. Many companies.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, Nalin, you have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Many companies have growth plans, but they are not ready to execute. The reason is there are two reasons for this. One is they don't have proper funding. Number two is they don't have proper people. These are some thoughts which I gathered through my experience. There are no proper people, no proper funding. And also in a situation like this, I think what they need to do is there are a lot of avenues. If you browse these days, right? Now, if you look at it, if I tell a young staff member of mine, he will just, he doesn't need training. He will just browse and tell me what he's got to do next, right? There are a lot of avenues to learn. So actually, what I feel is, Payal said this, I think people need to self-develop themselves, because people these days, even companies will not come and feed spoon you, right? They know there are enough avenues of learning. You have to just press a button in the keyboard and you learn, right? So I think the message is very clear. It's just imagine within 3 minutes, I will learn something where I go to a training and learn for hours. Right? What has happened in the banking? Mr. Watawala will go with me. Those days there was a thing called circulars coming in. Right? So we were reading the circulars and we self-heartedly knew the circulars. Now what's happening? When you tell a new guy, he will just go to our intranet and search for it and tell the answer. Right? So the learning methods also have changed. They are not learning, they just press a button and learn it then and there. So I think things have changed dramatically. Right? And we need to absorb this change. I think we cannot go and tell people you study, you learn, they know more than us. If you really look at it, because they will just go through their phone and tell me what to do next. Right? So I think the entire models have changed here. And if you are a smart guy, right? If you are a smart person, it's a matter of, touching a few buttons and then keeping that in your mind. And of course, as a bank, I will tell you, even though you you will have those the skill sets. You need to have the on-the-job training, because if a customer comes in and asks for the documents and then you go and browse these things, they will not have any confidence in you. So it's a balance act. It's a balance act. So I think we also need to change, and L&D methods will change. Of course, upskilling and reskilling, new skilling, all this needs to happen continuously, because the smartest guys will climb the ladder fast.
Right. Now that comes to the end of the whole session with this 22nd edition of CPM's Reskilling, Upskilling the Future Ready Workforce. So the learning, if you sum up the entire discussion that took place just a while ago, it's about you. It's about you and how you look at whether you have to upscale or reskill your talents. So it's something that has to start with you. That's what I've been emphasizing on right throughout, saying you are the change, right? So that's one aspect. Then the new generation is faster, like what Professor very rightly put it across, right? And then the economic growth or the setup of a country will depends on how you think, right? And AI and what you call tech being challenged by humans, right? And humans starts to dominate, though it is we see the rise of the machines. And Dr. Shamal very rightly said, even under a very disciplined setup, reskilling and upskilling is possible unless you have to be trained your mind, right? This brings to the closure of the whole session, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to finish off one thing, that is when NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, was done. There was a concept called maquiladora concept, where it's called the twin factory operation, where 500,000 workers basically worked inside that maquiladora. We call it maquiladora, right? And challenges they face: number of employees, knowledge level of employees, casual skill levels. If there's real HR in it, as the organization understand or understood the meaning of reskilling, upskilling, right? So this comes to an end of the entire the topics that we had today with regards to upskilling or reskilling the future ready workforce. And I would like to bring it to the end by thanking the committee, who did an excellent job in putting this together. And Professor, thank you so much. And I know, Dilshan, you're behind the scene watching this and putting all those things together with his staff. And it's a lovely experience. And thank you, Nalin and Dr. What do you call, fellow members of the Institute, my colleagues, and a wonderful start. And tomorrow will be a brighter day for us because we had a tremendous learning from you, as well as, again, Professor, thank you very much for that, the very fiery opening address, which I thought the vote of thanks, right? So once again, I correct myself, and thanks again for this wonderful session, and thanks for all the participants came in numbers. And again, we crossed 100 and we moved up to closer to 200 participants and even beyond that. So thank you, Payal. Thank all the panelists, and Professor, thank you very much. And thanks to all the participants across Sri Lanka and across the globe who've been watching the 22nd edition of Chartered Professional Managers Institute of Sri Lanka's conducted Upskilling, Reskilling the Future Workforce. Thank you. Good night, and may God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Great audience, great panelists. Thank you. And I have been really blessed to be a part of all your lives. And I hope we all stay connected on social media. Thank you, everyone.
Professor.
Thank you, Ms. Pamal. I'm Payal. Two things. I think first I must thank you. One is to optimize yourself. I think that's a key thing that everyone has to learn. And of course, the growth plan that has really taken you really to the top. So let me thank you. And we are very happy that we have been able to be present for our first EFM. And we wish you all the best and good success. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alvin, would you like to sum up?
Yep. Thank you, CPM, for inviting us for this event. And it was a very well organized event. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Doctor?
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Right. So we'll sum up. Good night and have a wonderful
Good night.
and have
night.
a tomorrow and a week ahead. All the best. And
Thanks, Hashan.
Bye.
Thanks. You did an extremely good job, Hashan. Hashan,
Yes.
thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Payal and all the others.
Thank you. We'll stay
Wish
in
you good
touch.
night.
Bye-bye.
Sure.
Good
Bye.
night.
Yeah.
Bye.